I'm pulling shots through the morning rush, tamping espresso, with hands that should have closed million-dollar deals, not pressed steel portafilters. Steam hisses, beans crack, and under the roar, I replay my college graduation cap in hand, marketing degree from UW in my fist. I pictured boardrooms, ad campaigns, not pouring oat lattes for tech bros. I glance at the clock, 7:18 a.m. Fremont Station, link train rolling by outside, and I'm already late for my shift lead meeting. Family doesn't get this. To them, I'm Alex Park 29, wasted potential. My stepdad, Professor Mitchell Grant, tenured in UW's business school lectures about ROI at PTA gatherings, even though he never ran a company. My mom, Lisa Park Grant, leads the local elementary PTA and fawns over yacht club socials at the Seattle Yacht Club, while I scrape tips in this glossy cafe. My sister Chloe, an art gallery curator, is engaged to Dominic Fontaine, heir of a Pacific Northwest design house. My brother Jordan runs Seattle Eats on TikTok, 15K followers tracking food trucks. I can't afford to taste. They all measure worth by titles, inheritances, and status symbols. My latte art means nothing. Thanksgiving's 3 days away, which in my family used to mean stuffing turkey and awkward group photos on Aunt Lori's sofa. Last year, they forgot to invite me citing space constraints. But I know the truth, they introduced me as our dear ghost who left us too soon. Then smirked when nobody questioned it. I even texted my mom. Seriously, no reply. The invite list shrank. Once I counted as family now, I'm a footnote and embarrassment. Yet I show up to shifts where I'm respected like some penitent pilgrim seeking approval that never comes. My phone buzzes, cold vibration against the tamp. Caller ID Chloe. That ringtone used to mean sisterly chit-chat. Now, my heart ratchets up as I wipe foam from a cup and answer, "Hey!" My voice cracks over the warm milk steamer. "Hey, coffee boy!" She spits tone-clipped. Even her greeting drips disdain. Listen carefully, 3 days before Thanksgiving, don't understand me. Don't you dare show up at Mom's house. You're not welcome. End of story. She hangs up before I can process why. I stand frozen, frothy milk oozing down a paper sleeve. I dial her back, but she won't pick up. My grip tightens on the phone. My knuckles blanch. It should hurt. I should bleed. Instead, I'm just numb. Seconds later, my mobile blares again. I answer before it even stops ringing. This time it's Mom. Her voice trembles with feigned sorrow. "Alex." She sighs, "We had no choice." My chest tightens. "What are you talking about?" "After you moved out, things got complicated. We told everyone you died in that hot air balloon accident 2 years ago. It was better than admitting we raised a failure." She almost sounds relieved. That's when I glimpse my reflection in the espresso machine glass eyes, wide mouth slack. Before I can speak, Jordan's mocking laugh drums through the speaker. "Yeah, we threw you a fake memorial." Mom cried so convincingly, and then we held a bonfire. Your Letterman jacket, your family portraits, even your college transcripts. We used your diploma as kindling. Felt pretty therapeutic, if you ask me. The cafeteria line behind me hushes. A drip of steam splashes onto my sleeve. Heat blossoms across my arm, but I hardly notice. My world tilts sideways, rupture ripping through my chest. They didn't just cut me out, they erased me, burned me, laughed at the ashes. I hang up phone slipping from sweaty fingers. The cafe's hum floods back, but it sounds distant like I'm underwater. My shift lead duties blur orders queue, customers tap impatiently. I look down at the green apron wrapped around my waist, a uniform that once felt like a lifeline, and now it's a noose. My heart pounds. I gather unsteady breath and flick open the till counting tips like I'm defusing a bomb. I reload the grinder, but the beans taste like betrayal. Behind the counter, the barista training under me asks if I'm okay. I offer a tight smile and say, "Just another Monday voice hollow. I know I can't let this slide." Thanksgiving used to be about gratitude, but now it's a countdown to humiliation. They think they've gone so far as to rewrite my obituary, but I'm still here breathing. I'll show them that erasing me was their biggest mistake. But first, I need a plan. And as the espresso machine purrs, I realize there's only one way forward. Find the one person who always believed in me. I step out onto the sidewalk, air crisp with fall. Fremont's murals stretch along the walls, tech icons, and coffee cherries painted in bright colors. Autumn leaves swirl at my feet. I check my reflection in a window eyes, burning jaw set. They erased my life story, but they can't erase what's inside me. And so, with the Thanksgiving lights blinking in the distance, I pull out my phone and type 5 simple words to the one relative they never mentioned. "Hi, Aunt May, can we talk?" The door chime jingles as I step into the quiet tea house on Ballard's Shilshole Avenue Orca card, tucked in my pocket, still warm from that morning's Link ride. Paper lanterns glow soft amber, steam curls off polished ceramic cups. My stomach twists, every practiced calm I've worn behind the Starbucks counter evaporates. I slide onto a low stool, facing the green-tiled wall, matcha scent hanging like a promise. 10 minutes late, I check my watch, 10:12 a.m. Aunt May should be here any moment. Wooden shutters shift light across tatami mats as the barista sets a tray with 2 steaming bowls of whisked tea. I wrap my fingers around the rim, heat seeps in, anchoring me. My mind storms, what if she's angry I called? What if she stayed out of their drama for a reason? I force a slow breath, remembering her smile when I was a kid, helping Dad in his workshop. That memory feels as distant as my past life. Lakes? Her voice is softer than I remember, carrying the faintest accent of her old neighborhood in San Francisco. Aunt May appears through the lattice door, kimono-patterned cardigan and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She slides onto the stool beside me, her eyes catching mine with warmth and sorrow. "Thank you for coming," she whispers, setting down a beige envelope stamped "Confidential." I nod, throat tight. "I'm sorry," but she raises a thin hand, stopping me. "No apologies. They forced your hand." Her gaze drifts to the tea bowl. "Your father trusted me to protect his legacy. I failed you both." The crack in her voice makes my heart lurch. This isn't a meeting of strangers. It's kinship forged in secrecy and regret. She eases the envelope across the table. "These are copies of the original trust documents, your 529 plan, and the ESOP shares he set aside in Apple and Microsoft when they were startups." My pulse ratchets up. I open the flap to find thick pages, legal filings, stock certificates. Dad's signature crisp at the bottom. Next, a sealed letter in his handwriting. "He wanted you to have everything when you turned 25. I swallow hard, but my stepdad, Professor Grant, he never mentioned any of this. Instead, they filed papers declaring me mentally unfit to manage my own money." May's lips tighten. "They weren't protecting you. They were draining every cent: Bellevue condo payments, Chloe's art school tuition, even Jordan's food truck startup." Her voice rises as she flips to a spreadsheet of withdrawals. "Look at this, over 2 million moved out last month alone." My head spins. Steam from the tea fogs my glasses. They stole from me. I breathe, palm slick against cold wood. I thought Dad had nothing." May's hand covers mine. "He believed in you. That's why he made me co-trustee. But after our fallout, Grant forged my resignation." She looks away, blinking back tears. "I only discovered it when I saw your name appear on documents again last week." My grip tightens around the Letterman green envelope. The cafe's hush feels like a cocoon of safety and betrayal. "What now?" I whisper. May exhales slowly, voice firm. "We go public. I'll testify. But first you need proof they still control those accounts." I called my friend Derek, the forensic auditor. He's heading here with digital copies. She checks her watch. "He's late. Something's off." My stomach drops. "What do you mean?" Outside, the rain begins to tap the roof in light staccato. May's phone buzzes. She swipes. It's a bank alert. She leans close, showing me a notification: wire transfer of $1.2 million processed at 2:17 a.m. My breath catches. Those funds were in my name. I stare at May. "They've emptied it." She nods, shoulders slumping. "They know we're onto them." They moved fast. My tea tumbles when I lift the bowl, a shiver running through me as droplets lap the tray. The green liquid glints in the window light, symbol of growth, now stained by deceit. A distant siren echoes down the street. I force myself upright, jaw set. "We have to act." May ducks her head, steadying her voice. "I've set a meeting with Vanessa, your attorney, tomorrow morning at 9. We'll file emergency injunctions, freeze assets." She meets my eyes. "But until then, they could vanish the rest. I imagine my stepdad pacing campus halls, smiling at PTA events, all financed by money that wasn't his. My chest twists with rage and fear. I'm caught between gratitude for May's loyalty and dread at how deep this runs. Outside, the sky darkens. Fall leaves swirl in the wind like secrets escaping alleys. I rise, leave a few bills on the tray, and slip the envelope in my coat pocket. May glances at the door, then back at me, eyes bright. "Promise me you'll be careful. They only care about one thing keeping you silent." I nod, throat tight. As we step into the cold drizzle, a flash of neon from a passing food truck cuts through the gray pastrami sandwich ad glowing like a beacon. I catch May's hand. "We'll fight!" I vow, voice low but steady. She squeezes back. A text buzzes in my pocket. I check it, unfamiliar number. "If you want more details on last night's transfers, meet me at Dock 3 on Elliott Bay midnight." My blood freezes. I look at May, breath clouding in the chill air. "They want to talk," I whisper. Her eyes widen. That could be a trap. My pulse surges, risk and hope collide. I stare at the text, heart pounding. Midnight at the Dock's danger waits beneath the streetlights. But it might be the only way to learn the full truth. A ferry whistle mourns in the distance. As we walk away, rain soft on our jackets. I can't shake the text. Do I dare meet them at the docks, or walk away and wait for the lawyer tomorrow? I grip my coat tighter, mind racing. The night holds its breath, and so do I. The rain had eased to a fine mist by the time I climbed down the rusted ladder onto Dock 3, Elliott Bay's silent underbelly, lit by orange glow of distant cranes. Water lapped against pilings, breathing in slow, mechanical sighs, like the harbor itself was waiting. I hugged my coat tight, breath fogging in the chill air. My heart hammered midnight, alone at my family's old stomping grounds. Betrayal tastes like salt water. I'd sent Aunt May a quick text. "I'm here," then slipped into shadows. She'd warned me, trust no one but Derek. Under a flickering floodlight, a tall figure emerged, hood up, shoulders hunched. He stepped forward into a shaft of light, Alex. His voice low, urgent. "Derek, forensic auditor by day, whistleblower by night." He pressed a slim flash drive into my hand. All encrypted files, he rasped, eyes darting toward the empty key. Transfers, emails, forged affidavits, everything you need. The tide crept closer. Cold spray spattered our boots. I opened my coat, slipped the drive into the inner pocket, where Dad's letter had once rested. "They moved funds again," I whispered, mind spinning with that 2 a.m. wire. Derek nodded. $1.2 million gone too clean. They're laundering it into shell accounts. A distant clank echoed metal on metal. Derek's stiffened voice, barely a breath. "They know we're here." Footsteps splashed through puddles behind us. I peered down the dock, two silhouettes emerging, broad shoulders, purposeful stride. My pulse ricocheted. PTA, mom, tenured prof. No, these were hired hands, cold muscle, sent to shut us down. Derek grabbed my arm. "Come on!" He bolted toward a stack of shipping containers, dragging me into narrow space between steel walls. I stumbled as he pitched himself behind crates, breathing hard. My skin prickled, injustice pulsed through me. This was bigger than our family feud, deeper than stolen trust funds. It was crime theft of a dream Dad built. I crouched beside him. He pulled a battered laptop from a messenger bag and slid it open, screen flickered with spreadsheets and scanned documents. "Here, look at the audit trail." Fingers shaking, I traced line after line, showing funds diverted to a shadow firm, Grant & Company Investments. My stepdad's name glaring at me as proof of his betrayal. Rage and sorrow tangled like barbed wire in my chest. Suddenly, a shout rang out, gruff, distant. "You two freeze!" The thug's boots pounded metal grating above. Rain dripped from my hair onto the keyboard. "We need to move!" Derek hissed, yanking the drive back. "I can't carry this and run!" He handed me the laptop too, weight heavy with all my stolen inheritance. I nodded, adrenaline flaring. We scrambled toward a service ramp, every step a gamble. The dock's grid of shadows swallowed us, breathing menace. I reached the ramp's ladder when Derek gasped behind me, clutching his side. A sharp pain bloomed. He collapsed onto wet planks. I froze. His face was pale under neon. "Keep going!" he panted. "Go now!" But all I saw was him, my ally, bleeding on cold wood. Derek. I dropped the laptop, braced him under my arm. He coughed, eyes blazing, despite sweat and rain. "Promise me you'll expose them all," he rasped. "Chloe, Jordan." He trailed off, slumped like a rag doll. Footsteps thundered closer, mixed with voices. "Found him!" My chest seized. I knelt, pressing my coat against his wound, but the pain in his eyes told me he was running out of time. I glanced around the service ramp, led to an empty yard, but beyond that was open water, no escape route left. Then headlights, a black sedan, rolled to a halt at the end of the dock, engine idling. Through rain-blurred windows, I saw a familiar silhouette behind the wheel. Professor Grant expression, unreadable in the glow. My blood turned to ice. He climbed out, umbrella in hand, not a drop on his polished shoes. He studied me and Derek as though inspecting lab rats. Rain dripped off his tailored overcoat. He didn't move to help. Instead, his lips curved into a slow smile. "Well, well, Alex," he called, voice crisp. "I see you found my backup assets." The rain muffled Derek's groan. "You never learn, do you?" I rose, heart thundering like drums. Laptop and flash drive slipped in my pocket. Derek's weakened grip on my coat reminded me time was against us. "You'll pay for this," I spat. Grant shrugged, gaze cold as rainwater. "I've already paid my debts." He tapped a finger to his temple. "Right here." Then he turned away, hands in pockets. Tonight was always about one thing, teaching you to stay buried. He strode toward the sedan, opened the passenger door, and slid inside. The engine growled. Taillights cut through fog. I craned for a last look at Derek, pale blood dark on his shirt. His eyes met mine. He whispered, "Promise. Don't let them win." Then he closed his eyes. My vision tunneled. I raced forward, catching Grant's taillights as the car pulled away. Rain pelted my face. I caught Derek's shoulder, shook him. His chest rose and fell shallow. "Hang on," I begged. I fumbled my phone, no signal. Goddamn docks. I looked up at the crane bridge lights blinking storm warnings. We were marooned. I pulled Derek to his feet. Legs unsteady, he leaned on me. "I'll get you help," I vowed, scanning for any living soul. But the dock was deserted, aside from puddles reflecting orange light. The only sounds my ragged breathing, the lapping water, and far-off train horn. With Derek draped over my shoulder, I staggered toward the ramp. Every step stung fear, guilt, and fury warring in my gut. I thought of Dad's letter safe in my coat. I thought of Chloe's call warning me, but she didn't know the half of it. I thought of Jordan's braggadocio, and all I felt was cold determination. This ends now. As we climbed the ladder, a sudden crack, wood splintering, echoed from the container stacks behind us. I froze, Derek nearly slipping. Then came a low growl, a dog. Or something worse. I shone my phone's light down the row, twin eyes glinted at me. My heart lurched. I steadied Derek on the top rung as the light flicked off. I switched it back on. The beam cut through darkness, a massive German Shepherd fur, soaked hackles raised straining against a chain leash leading toward the shadows. And at its end, a metallic click, a handheld remote. Not attached to anyone. A chilling realization, whoever set this up expected me to come alone. They brought a guard dog. I looked at Derek, eyes shut, skin cold, and realized I couldn't save him here. Not without help. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored the calls, no signal last I checked. Grabbed it anyway. Screen lit. "Trust is fragile. Meet me at 2 a.m. Gas works on Alki. Come alone. Anonymous." My jaw clenched. Another trap or lifeline. I swore under my breath, heart pounding. Dog's growl deepened. Derek shifted in my arms, pain etched on his face. I nudged down the ladder fist, tightening on Dad's letter and the flash drive. One choice: fight through the dog and carry Derek to safety, or leave him to collapse here and chase the new lead. Lightning flashed over the bay, illuminating the shattered dock around us. And just like that, I knew what I had to do. But even if I survived, could I trust the next message? Or would I be trading one betrayal for another? I looked at the dark water below, the pulsing crane lights, the silent city beyond. Time stopped. My phone buzzed again. I slipped it out, a single text. "They're watching you now." Footsteps, human, echoed behind me. I froze, Derek's weight pressing down. The dog barked. And in that moment, I realized the fight wasn't just for my inheritance. It was for my life. I stood on that ledge, rain-slick board creaking underfoot, staring into the harbor's black mirror, heart pounding. The next move would decide everything. Drenched and shaking, I staggered off the dock, with Derek cradled in my arms. Every step, an agony of salt water and adrenaline. The German shepherd's growl receded behind us. Replaced by the distant wail of sirens, we must have tripped an alarm in our scramble past the shipping containers. I hauled Derek toward the street, rain sluicing down my collar, breath ragged. My fingers fumbled for my phone. 3 bars and a half-lit 911 blinked on the screen. "Please!" I gasped into the receiver. "My friend's been shot. He's at Elliott Bay Dock 3. The dispatcher's calm voice cut through the storm, promising an ambulance. I sank onto a curb, Derek's head against my chest. Blood warm beneath my hand. Each heartbeat felt like betrayal's echo. I'd dragged him into this to save my legacy, and now he was dying because of it. Minutes later, flashing lights painted the alley in red and blue. Paramedics rushed Derek onto a gurney, hooking him to monitors and IV lines as I paced under a flickering street lamp. My coat puddled around me, droplets spattering the concrete. I replayed every misstep, why I'd trusted that anonymous text, why I'd believed I could handle this alone. A hand on my shoulder startled me. Michael Johnson. My neighbor from Fremont pulled a dry blanket from his car. "I saw the news on my scanner," he said, voice low. "Let me help." He guided me back as the ambulance doors slammed, then climbed in after us. When they rolled Derek away, I leaned against the brick wall, rain running down my face like tears I couldn't shed. By 3 a.m., I was pacing the sterile hallway of Harborview Medical Center, coffee from the vending machine growing cold in my hand. The bay windows showed a gray dawn creeping over Seattle's skyline Space Needle, and cranes etched against pale light. Aunt May arrived face-pale under fluorescent bulbs. She folded into a visitor's chair and presented 2 manila folders. "I went to the bank," she whispered. "They froze the trust, but they still control the overdraft." She slid me documents, wire transfer requests, charters of shell companies, even an email thread between Grant and Chloe discussing that 2 a.m. move. Derek recovered more than I thought. My chest tightened as I flipped through lines, proving they'd preempted our legal motions, siphoning every dollar before the injunction could hit. A surgeon emerged, mask hanging loose. "He's stable," she said evenly. "A bullet grazed his liver, but no major arteries were hit. He'll pull through." Relief slammed into me, draining the last reserve of panic. I exhaled so hard my phone buzzed against the wall, a text from Vanessa. My attorney status meeting at Russell Center, 9 a.m. "Bring all original docs." I glanced at Aunt May, who lifted an eyebrow. "Bank opens at 8:30. We have to secure the originals from the safe deposit box." My gut clenched, time and trust slipping through my fingers again. Dawn found us speeding down Aurora Avenue in May's SUV, windshield wipers flinging drops across our tense faces. We reached Pike Place Bank at 8:27. The lobby lights were already on. A guard nodded as May produced her ID and a dusty keychain with the safe deposit box number, proof of her co-trustee status. I hovered as she and the clerk descended to the vault, the iron door clanging shut behind them. Minutes felt like hours until the clerk reappeared, eyes wide beneath fluorescent glare. "These are the originals," he said, passing thick packets of paper and Dad's leather-bound trust ledger through a slot. My fingers trembled over the embossed title, Park Family Trust 2002. We piled into the car again, May clutching the ledger's documents, fanning out on her lap. My phone buzzed, a second text from that same anonymous number. "Phase 2 starts now. Check your inbox." I tapped my email, a single message with an attachment labeled Grant's motion to dismiss. My breath caught. The document argued that because I'd been declared legally incompetent in 2018, any motion I filed was void. My heart thundered as I realized they'd weaponized my own mental health record against me. I slammed my palm against the steering wheel. Aunt May watched me, lips pressed tight. "They're trying to bury you under their forgeries before you even reach the courtroom." The downtown skyline shimmered ahead as we swung onto I-5 South. "We need Vanessa's signature on these originals," I said, voice cracking. "If we can't prove I'm competent, none of this matters." Russell Investment Center loomed as we pulled into the valet drive. The lobby's marble floors gleamed, early morning commuters in tailored suits filing past. I stuffed the manila folders into my backpack and followed May through revolving doors. An ominous hush settled as we stepped beneath the chandelier of hanging glass orbs. Vanessa appeared in a smart navy suit, tablet in hand. "You made it," she said, steeling herself as she reviewed our haul. "But we're up against their own forged court orders. If we can't get a judge to grant a temporary restraining order before our hearing, Grant will liquidate every asset and vanish." My pulse slammed. "So what do we do?" I asked. Voice barely a whisper in the grand lobby. Vanessa's eyes flicked to the elevator. "We're filing in chambers, but to get access you need to swear an affidavit here now." My throat tightened. I glanced at Aunt May, determined gaze. "Then let's go." As we stepped into the elevator, the doors slid shut on the polished lobby, and our last chance to stop Grant's final move. I pressed the button for the second floor, mind racing. Would sworn testimony and a judge's gavel be enough to turn the tide? Or had they already painted me into a corner? The brass doors sealed us in darkness, and I realized there was no turning back. We stepped off the elevator into a hushed corridor lined with polished cherrywood panels and muted light. My heart was still pounding from the elevator's creak and our frantic drive every second, bringing us closer to a judge's gavel. Vanessa guided us down the hall, manila folders clutched under her arm like armor. "This is it," she whispered. "Swear the affidavit, file the papers, then we moved to the emergency hearing across the hall." A court clerk's office door swung open. Inside, a solemn bailiff motioned us forward. I set the folders on the counter, hands trembling. The clerk slid out a thick stack of forms, oaths, certificate of service motion for temporary restraining order. Fluorescent lights hummed. I blinked at the page's legal jargon I'd spent nights Googling, but couldn't let fear freeze me. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and recited the oath. "I solemnly swear the facts in this affidavit are true to the best of my knowledge." My voice echoed off marble floors. I signed my pen, hovering as if weighing every word. Vanessa leaned in. "Don't rush. Make sure each signature matches Dad's trust documents exactly." I traced my name, picturing Dad's handwriting on those leather-bound pages. Beside me, Aunt May stamped her seal with the clerk's nod of approval. "We're good," Vanessa said. The clerk stamped our motion filed in bold red ink. We hustled across the hall to the judge's courtroom. The waiting area was packed with suited attorneys, scrolling on phones, reporters huddled in corners. I spotted Grant's lawyer, slick dark suit, silver cufflinks, leaning against the wall, phone pressed to his ear. His eyebrows flicked up when he saw me. I swallowed, adrenaline stinging my throat. Vanessa linked arms with me and May, forming a shield. Inside, Judge Ramirez, stern but fair, sat behind a high bench, robes hanging in orderly folds. He peered over thick glasses. "Mr. Park, we have your emergency motion for a restraining order against Professor Grant and associated entities." Counsel Vanessa rose, folders in hand. She delivered a precise summary forged in competency filings. Millions siphoned, last-minute transfers, timed to evade asset freeze. She laid out the trust ledger originals and Derek's forensic report on flash drive. Throughout, I felt the courtroom's weight, the smell of leather benches, the quiet shuffling of paper like a crucible forging my future. When Vanessa finished, Grant's lawyer stood smooth as oil. "Your Honor, the plaintiff lacks standing. His 2018 mental competency adjudication invalidates any claims he now raises. Moreover, the documents presented by purported co-trustee May Chen are unauthenticated." He tapped a binder. "I request this motion be denied on procedural grounds." A sick knot uncoiled in my gut. Vanessa's eyes flicked to mine. She clasped her hands, voice steady. "Your Honor, the incompetency filing was itself a forgery. We will demonstrate through expert testimony that the signatures on those documents do not match Mr. Park's or the court records, and Ms. Chen's seal is registered with the bank. Our originals from the safe deposit box have the official key slip." The judge leaned forward, fingers steepled. "I will allow this motion to proceed to hearing immediately. Counsel, prepare your evidentiary exhibits. We reconvene in 30 minutes. A collective exhale rippled through the room. Grant's lawyer shot us a thin-lipped smile. Vanessa nodded to May and me. "We wait here." As we turned, I caught Grant's gaze from the back row, calm, unreadable. We retreated to a small anteroom. May sank onto a bench, voice trembling. "I'm proud of you." I sank beside her chest, heaving. Vanessa rifled through her portfolio. We have originals, the ledger, Dad's letter, Derek's metadata report. We're solid unless… She trailed off, eyes narrowing. Aunt May looked from Vanessa to me. Unless what? Vanessa held up the safe deposit envelope, flap-torn handwriting, neat box 712. She frowned. Which box number did you give the bank clerk? May's lips parted. I thought it was 712. Vanessa's brow tightened. She pulled out the clerk's key slip. This says box 271. My blood turned to ice. You grabbed the wrong box, May whispered, horror creeping in. She pressed a hand to her mouth. I remembered upside down. Vanessa slammed her palm against the wall, the wood groaning. This explains why Grant's lawyer questioned authentication. He knew these originals didn't match the case file. We're presenting documents for a different account, one unrelated to the Park Family Trust. Time cracked open. My heartbeat thundered 30 minutes until the hearing. Our foundation had crumbled. The file stamp on the ledger said Park Family Trust 2002, but that was someone else's trust, maybe a dormant account. Our documents weren't recognized. The real originals sat behind an iron vault door safe deposit box, 712 locked until the bank opened tomorrow. Panic clawed at me. What do we do? I hissed. Vanessa paced, mind racing. We have Derek's flash drive with evidence, emails, wire trails. We can submit the forensic report as digital exhibits, but without the original trust documents, Judge Ramirez may dismiss on technical deficiency. She froze, eyes wide. Unless we can get notarized copies with bank certification instantly. But the bank's closed until 8:30 tomorrow. I felt every eye on me, the huddled attorneys, the judge's chamber doors. The injustice gnawed Grant, played us like pawns. He'd been to the vault, he knew. 271 held bogus files. He set this trap. A soft knock sounded at the door. Vanessa's head snapped up. The bailiff's face appeared, chambers meeting in 5 minutes. Your Honor, we'll see you now. Vanessa snatched her tablet. We have to try. She turned to Aunt May. Can you get to the bank vault tonight? There's a 24-hour access code for emergencies. We need proofs of identity and this key slip. We'll stay here and stall the judge. May shook her head, tears in her eyes. It's after hours. Vanessa's jaw clenched. We'll call in every favor. You helped your family once, time to help again. She looked at me, voice soft but iron. Alex, they expect you to be buried by tomorrow. This is your last chance to prove standing. I swallowed adrenaline, sharpening my focus. I'll go, I said, voice steady. I know the bank manager from when I lived in Fremont. She owes me a favor. Coffee runs birthday shout-outs on Instagram. May's eyes widened. But it's across town. It'll take at least 30 minutes by car. Vanessa checked her watch. 5 minutes until we reconvene. If you can make it, be prepared to serve certified copies to the clerk, hand-deliver them to Judge Ramirez's assistant in chambers. That's our only shot. I clenched my fist, scanning the corridor's polished stone floor. The taste of fear was sharp as copper. I'll do it, I said. Aunt May squeezed my arm through the folds of her kimono-patterned cardigan. Be safe. Call me when you have them. I tore down the hall lobby, past the embossed "No food or drinks" sign, past silent portraits of former judges. Through revolving doors into the damp air. I jogged to the valet, keys in hand. My breath pounded loud in my ears, determination fueling each step. The city's sirens and horns swirled in a frantic chorus. Lyft was 3 minutes away. I tapped for a ride heart in my throat. Please, I muttered as I climbed into the back seat. Get me to Pike Place Bank. The driver glanced in the mirror. In a hurry, I forced a tight smile. If I don't get there, my family will profit from my own destruction. He nodded, foot on the gas. Neon signs blurred past the waterfront, the Gumwall early crew of fishermen. My phone buzzed, a text from Grant's number. Running late. His message chilled me. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over reply, mind racing. He knew I'd be coming. Maybe he'd posted guards. Maybe the vault wouldn't open. My phone buzzed again, this time, Aunt May all set. I'm here, I replied, on my way. My Lyft swerved around a delivery truck, car tires slicing through puddles. Beneath my coat, the wrong envelope burned like a scar. I pictured Judge Ramirez looking at those bogus documents and dismissing everything. The bank's steel doors slid open on cue. I bolted inside, keys rattling. Security cameras tracked my every move. At the teller desk, the same clerk from Dawn eyed me. "Back so soon?" He frowned. I slapped down Grant's letter slip and key. "I need box 712. I said, voice low. His lips pressed into a thin line. "After hours, you need approval from my manager." I froze. "Manager locked up at 6. "Please," I hissed. "This is a matter of life and death. A court hearing in 60 minutes. He rubbed his jaw. "Okay, follow me." He led me to the vault door, punched the code. The librarian-like clank of bolts sliding back echoed like a starting gun. Inside, rows of boxes glinted. I scanned labels until I found 712. My hands shook as I inserted the key turned. The door creaked open, a void of metal. I knelt, reached in, and pulled out a thick envelope embossed Park Family Trust. My chest lightened for a heartbeat. I tucked it inside my coat heart, fluttering like a trapped bird. The clerk hovered, sign the log. I scrawled my name, then dashed for the exit. Rain had freshened to a downpour. I sprinted back to the street, found a cab in 2 minutes, flung myself inside Russell Center. Now. My phone buzzed one more time. Grant's number. Enjoying the race. My teeth clenched. I twisted in the seat. This ends tonight. The cab skidded around a corner. My phone slipped from my pocket, flicking across the floor. I froze, then dove after it. Outside, the rain pounded the pavement. The last glow of dawn was bleeding into the sky. My thumb fumbled for a call. Aunt May, Vanessa, anyone. And then, through the windshield, I saw flashing lights at the Russell Center entrance. A line of black SUVs and unmarked vans pulsing red and blue, parked diagonally, blocking the driveway. My heart lurched. It wasn't the judge's clerk. It was them. I looked back at the envelope in my hand, original documents in my coat. But if I can't reach the building, I'm trapped outside. The cab door wouldn't open. The driver was gone. My phone screen glowed with Grant's message, "Game over." I slammed my fist on the roof. Sirens closed in. I realized I had the proof, but no way to deliver it. And somewhere inside that building, the hearing was starting without me. A gust of rain slapped my face as I yanked the door handle, praying it'd budge. It didn't. I heard footsteps behind me, boots crunching on wet pavement. I risked a glance, 2 men in dark jackets, earpieces glinting under street lamps. Their gazes locked on the envelope in my hand. My world spun. I had the key to my future, just not the doorway. And now they were coming. Rain slicked my hair and ran down my collar as I tore my eyes from the flashing SUVs to the locked glass doors of the Russell Center. The envelope burned against my chest, Dad's legacy in my hand, but 2 men in dark jackets flanked the entrance, their earpieces glinting. My breath came in ragged bursts. My Lyft driver was gone, and my phone lay dead on the floor. The taller man stepped forward, voice low. "Hand it over, son. You've been running long enough." His companion cracked a knuckle boot, splashing in a puddle. I could taste adrenaline, metallic sharp. Grief and fury tangled in my gut. This was their idea of teaching me a lesson. Instead, it steeled me. "I'm not handing anything back," I said, voice shaking but loud. "This is my money." I glanced at those tinted windows, imagining Aunt May and Vanessa inside fighting my fight. I pictured Judge Ramirez's bench, waiting to hear the truth. The shorter thug lunged, aiming for the envelope. I jerked back and bolted toward the side of the building, a service entrance I'd noticed earlier. My heart pounded like a freight train in my chest. Rain and neon signs blurred past as I ran across the plaza, instincts firing faster than thought. Behind me, heavy footsteps thundered. I fumbled, the door handle locked. My fingers found a gap, the wood was warped, pried open a crack. I slammed my shoulder into it, and it gave way. I tumbled inside, skidding on concrete envelope, clutched tight. A narrow corridor stretched ahead, lit by emergency lights. I crept along aluminum-wrapped ductwork, heart hammering so loud I could hear it echo. Muffled voices drifted from a door at the end. "All rise." My pulse jerked. The hearing was starting. I hugged the walls, rainwater dripping from my sleeves, every sense sharpened. Through a frosted glass panel, I glimpsed the judge's bench, dark robes, gavel poised. Grant's lawyer stood at a podium, dossier in hand. My throat went dry. I edged to the door and eased it open an inch. slipping the envelope underneath like a mail slot in reverse. The manila edge slid across the threshold, disappearing beneath the courtroom carpet. A sudden click metal on tile. My blood froze. I looked over my shoulder. The tall thug filled the doorway, arms crossed. He stared at me, a predator sizing up prey. My lungs snapped shut. The envelope was gone, swallowed by the room's hush, but I knew it was in there, my only hope. I slid the door shut, heart-pounding turbulence. The thug knocked once, twice. I pressed my ear to the wall, listening to every footstep. The judge's voice. This emergency hearing is now in session. My insides clenched. I had to get back in, had to stake my claim before they could bury me. With trembling fingers, I yanked at the door handle, but it wouldn't budge. The thug's shadow stretched across the frosted glass, blocking light. I pounded the surface. "Open up!" My voice cracked. "Please, you have to let me in." No answer. The judge's gavel rapped. The door behind me rattled as if they tried to force it from the other side. I glanced down the corridor. A stairwell exit sign flickered. I sprinted for it 2 steps at a time, adrenaline burning my lungs. I burst into a stairwell, concrete walls closing in. I raced up 2 floors in a heartbeat, my feet slick on metal treads. On landing 3, I heard distant sirens, police, maybe the paramedics closing the net. I found an unlocked hallway, windows overlooking the city. Neon peaks of Ferris wheel lights winked through rain. A door marked Clerk of Court sat ajar. I slipped inside, soft carpet underfoot. Rows of filing cabinets lined the walls. I rifled through drawers labeled Exhibits Breath-Catching. If I could find a way to the clerk's desk, maybe I could fax or scan the originals directly to the judge's assistant. Footsteps pounded the hallway. I ducked behind a cabinet as a pair of security guards passed, radios crackling. They didn't see me. I peered out. They headed toward the courtroom doors, probably to secure them. My stomach twisted. If they locked it, I'd never get in. I risked a peek through the glass. Judge Ramirez sat forward, scanning documents. Across the bench, Grant's lawyer smirked, thumbing through those bogus files from Box 271. My chest constricted. The manila edge of Dad's trust lay somewhere beneath that carpet, waiting to set the record straight. I crept back to the clerk's desk at the end of the room, computer logged in, mouse cursor blinking ready. I set the envelope down, heart thudding, and tapped open the scanner app. My hand shook as I slid the trust documents onto the glass, lined them up. I clicked scan, a humming whir. But before the progress bar hit half the hallway, lights snapped off, emergency power only. The entire floor plunged into shadow, emergency lights casting red halos. A distant shout echoed, "Who's down there?" Panic coiled in my gut. I fumbled to press send, but discovered the fax line was offline, phone lines cut. Of course they'd anticipated this. The scan sputtered. I ripped the papers from the scanner bed and shoved them back in the envelope, every crease a threat to their integrity, and stuffed it into my backpack. My phone buzzed on the desk. A single text from Aunt May, Vanessa. Says hearing is wrapping up. They asked for evidence. Are you okay? I stared at the screen. I'm trapped. Documents stuck inside. The reply was instant, call 911. If in danger, my jaw tightened. Calling 911 would bring cops, maybe they'd arrest me too. I slid out of the clerk's office and raced back to the stairwell. Every step felt like betrayal, 2 floors down, 2 more to go. I burst into a security corridor with double doors marked emergency exit. One was open, cracked, but it led outside to a fire escape. I pushed through, dragging my backpack. Rain pelted me as I climbed down the metal stairs, 3 stories to ground level. Below the plaza was chaotic police cars, volunteers from the yacht club, local news crews with tripod lights. I crouched behind a planter box as a helicopter spotlight swept over. My reflection shimmered in a puddle, wet hair plastered to my face, eyes wild. I swallowed hard. The envelope felt heavy, like a millstone, like a promise. Across the street, I spotted Vanessa and Aunt May stepping out of a black sedan, papers in hand, striding toward the entrance. They both looked determined, like Avengers summoning justice. My throat tightened. They'd made it. But could they salvage the motion without me? And then, through the chaos, I saw him. Professor Grant Umbrella, folded hands in pockets, talking calmly into a phone. His back half turned, but I recognized his posture. He spotted me kneeling behind the planter. His voice carried, "Yes." "He's gone." I locked the doors. He faced me, umbrella raised in a mocking salute. Enjoy the show. Lightning split the sky above the Space Needle. Thunder rolled across Elliott Bay like a verdict. My heart hammered they'd locked down every exit, and now, with night closing in, I was sealed out of my own hearing, my own inheritance. I weighed my options: flee and regroup, or storm the entrance in front of cameras. My phone buzzed a third time. Grant's just filed a motion to dismiss for abandonment. They'll rule by morning. Aunt May's voice crackled Alex. The line went dead. I rose to my feet, rain-soaked and trembling. Neon reflected off the wet plaza, a riot of color against concrete. The courthouse lights glowed, gavel strikes echoing from inside. My betrayal, my father's legacy, and my own future lay beyond locked doors, with Grant smiling from behind it. I stepped into the open fists, clenched, and yelled my sister's name. Chloe, you're not going to get away with this! But only the wind answered. Thunder boomed, and I knew the real fight was just beginning. Dawn broke over Pike Place Market as I stumbled out of the Russell Center Arms, aching from clutching that manila envelope all night. A small crowd of reporters swarmed the entrance, cameras flashing, microphones thrust toward Vanessa and Aunt May. My heart pounded. The judge had granted our temporary restraining order, freezing Grant's access to the Park Family Trust, and scheduling a full hearing next week. It wasn't total victory, but it felt like breathing after a lifetime of suffocation. Vanessa emerged first, dark suit pristine despite the long night. She raised a hand to quiet the microphones and spoke clearly. Judge Ramirez recognized the evidence of forgery in the incompetency filings and ordered immediate asset freeze. Next hearing is Monday, 9 a.m. We'll secure final relief then. Flashbulbs popped. I stood beside her, cloak of relief and fear settling over my shoulders. Aunt May slipped me a tight smile. Her pride warmed me more than the rising sun. Across the plaza, Chloe appeared, eyes red and rimmed. She approached me, voice trembling. Alex, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. They lied to me, to all of us. Guilt and anger tangled in my chest. Before I could respond, Jordan stormed up, face flushed. You ruined everything. Mom's losing her yacht club boards. His voice cracked shock and betrayal louder than anger. I held up a hand. I didn't choose this. They did. A sudden tap on my shoulder made me whirl. Kevin, Chloe's fiancé, stood there, hands in his pockets, gait hesitant. I came back, he said softly, eyes fixed on mine. When I found out what they did to you, I asked my firm to return our wedding deposit. They sent the check to your nonprofit account, $20,000, as partial restitution. My breath caught. He handed me the refund check, folded and crisp. I blinked. This wasn't the Kevin I knew. It was someone who chose justice over loyalty to a lie. As I pocketed the check, my phone buzzed a text from Derek Miracle Hospital. I'm okay. Gotta see you ASAP. I have more files. I exchanged a look with Aunt May and Kevin. I need to go to the hospital. At Harborview. Derek stood by the nurse's station, pale but upright, clutching a waterproof folder. Inside were audio recordings, Grant's own voice on a late-night call, admitting to forging Dad's signature and directing transfers. My stomach flipped. This was incontrovertible proof. I slid the recorder out its weight, a promise of final vindication. Later, back at my Fremont studio apartment, I spread the morning's haul across my tiny kitchen table, the original trust docs, Derek's recordings, Kevin's deposit check. I poured coffee into my favorite ceramic mug, steam swirling like hope, and stared at Dad's embossed ledger. He'd built this for me, not to fund a lifestyle of shame, but to empower my dreams. Suddenly, my phone rang. Mr. Park, a clipped voice. This is Special Agent Rivera with the FBI. We need to discuss these ESOP shares in Apple and Microsoft. They're linked to alleged insider trading. Can you come to our Seattle office this afternoon? My coffee froze on the table. Insider trading. I glanced at the stock certificate Dad had set aside, startups he believed in, then left untouched. I have to go, I whispered to the empty room. I grabbed the ledger and the recorder, heart pounding with a new dread. The fight with my family had just become a nationwide investigation, and now my father's legacy was tangled in federal scrutiny. I stepped out into the midday drizzle, Seattle's skyline blurred by rain and uncertainty. My reflection trembled in the glass doors as I headed toward the parking lot, loyalty, justice, and legacy clashing in my chest. The wind carried the distant cry of seagulls over Elliott Bay. I was on the brink of a battle far bigger than stolen funds, and as I climbed into my car, gripping Dad's ledger, I realized I had one choice: follow the law to its end, or let his dream die in scandal. My phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. They've sent someone to intercept you. Trust no one. I swallowed hard, hand tightening on the steering wheel. The rain beat against the windshield as the FBI's cruiser pulled up behind me, lights flashing. I flicked on my hazards, heart hammering, and locked eyes on Dad's ledger. The price of the American dream had never felt so steep. I parked outside the FBI field office, rain still trailing down the windshield, and for the first time in weeks, my hand didn't tremble with fear. I stepped into the lobby, clutching Dad's ledger and Derek's recorder like lifelines. Special Agent Rivera greeted me, tall, calm Navy suit, unruffled. "Mr. Park, thank you for coming," she said, leading me past bulletproof glass. My pulse throbbed as we entered a small conference room. She closed the door, flipped on a recorder. "We've reviewed the ESOP filings," she began. "Your father's Apple and Microsoft shares were acquired legally as early investors. The insider trading angle was a ruse. Grant manufactured emails to offset your inheritance with criminal charges." My chest clenched. They'd tried to turn Dad's legacy into evidence against me. Rivera slid across a stack of papers, wire transfers from shell accounts back to Grant's private offshore bank. "We've got warrants," she continued. "He'll be indicted by day's end." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd held. "And Chloe and Jordan?" I asked, voice tight. Rivera nodded. "They've agreed to testify. Your sister provided phone records. Your brother's social media messages confirmed they knew about the dead story." Relief mixed with hurt. My family had been pawns in Grant's scheme, but justice finally felt within reach. That afternoon, courtroom 3B buzzed with anticipation. Vanessa sat beside me, Aunt May behind. Chloe and Jordan filed in, eyes red but determined. Grant appeared composed in gray suit, face pallid. Judge Ramirez entered. The gavel's echo snapped the room silent. The prosecution laid out the evidence: forged incompetency orders, millions diverted offshore accounts. The FBI's financial forensics, and most damning, Derek's recording of Grant's own confession. The defense sputtered, flinging legal jargon, but the judge cut them off. "This court recognizes the severity of these crimes," he declared. He examined Dad's original trust documents. "Our box, 712 originals," then played a snippet of Grant's voice laced with the professor's clipped accent. "They'll never suspect forged signatures." A hush fell. Grant's face drained color. Judge Ramirez assessed the crowd. "Professor Grant, you are hereby found responsible for fraud, embezzlement, and forgery. I will remand you on $1 million bail to ensure you cannot access any Park Family Trust assets. Trial date set for next month." The bailiff cuffed Grant, his eyes flicking to me, filled with cold betrayal. My stomach twisted, but something inside unclenched. This was the true turning point. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed as reporters clamored. Chloe looped arms with me, tears on her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Alex," she sobbed. I pulled her close. "You didn't know." Jordan offered a tentative hug. "I'll make it right," he vowed. I nodded, voice warm together. Weeks later, I sat in my new office in Sodu, an open loft overlooking Elliott Bay, poring over plans for my eco-packaging startup. The ledger lay framed on my desk beside my laptop. Kevin had helped me negotiate our first client, a local coffee roaster, switching to compostable bags. The scholarship fund, Dad's Dream Scholarship at UW, was set up, and applications poured in from first-gen students. Aunt May managed the fund's board, beaming at every successful award. One crisp morning, I walked across the Fremont Bridge before my shift lead training at Starbucks Reserve. Rain clouds parted, revealing sun glinting off the water. A barista trainee asked if I was coming back. I shook my head, smile soft. "No more green aprons for me, just green ideas." He laughed, eyes bright with admiration. I thought of dorm room dreams, of folding lattes and pleading for respect. Now, I was building something new, true to Dad's vision. That evening, I stood on my balcony, coffee in hand cities, lights reflecting like fireflies on the bay. My phone buzzed, a text from Vanessa Case, Chloe. "Assets restored, trust intact." "Congratulations, Mr. Park." I typed back, "Thank you for everything." I turned to Mom's old rocking chair. She'd moved to a small apartment, finances rebuilt on her own, and left it empty. Some bridges heal, others remain for the wind to rock. I slipped the recorder into my desk drawer. Derek recovered fully and joined my team as financial controller, turning his ordeal into expertise. Chloe curated a charity art show to benefit the scholarship. Jordan's TikTok channel pivoted to spotlight sustainable entrepreneurs. We were scattered threads woven into a renewed tapestry of family, flawed but honest. As dusk settled, the Space Needle's neon halo blinked on each pulse, a reminder of Seattle's promise. I raised my cup to the skyline. "This one's for you, Dad." A soft breeze carried the faint echo of steam and coffee beans. I leaned back, heart steady, no ghosts left to chase me. The legacy he built wasn't just dollars or tech shares. It was the belief that integrity endures. And as the city hummed below, I knew the hardest part wasn't surviving betrayal, but choosing to build anew. Behind me, the recorder buzzed one last message from an unknown number. "Congratulations! You did it!" I squeezed my eyes shut, letting the moment wash over me. Then I set the cup down, opened my office door, and stepped into tomorrow. Story 2. I was supposed to be dead. At least that's the bedtime story my parents have been telling polite society for the past 2 years. A tragic kayaking accident, complete with fake condolences on Facebook and one tasteful donation link to the Coast Guard. Nice touch, right? Too bad I'm very much alive, and I have the screenshots to prove it. My name is Noah Calder, 28 forever. The inconvenient middle child between radiant Claire, 34, and effortlessly charming Zoe, 22. Claire owns a string of Pilates studios. Zoe live streams her vegan brunches to 500,000 followers. I, on the other hand, write software nobody sees and prefer hoodies to blazers, apparently grounds for erasure in the Calder family rulebook. Before we get to the night, I crashed their silver and pearl anniversary. You need the ugly prelude. 2 years ago, Claire called sobbing about a tiny liquidity hiccup. Translation, her newest studio launch was hemorrhaging cash, and the private lender was circling like a shark. She begged me to take out a consolidation loan in my name because her credit needed to stay pristine for investors. Against every instinct, I signed. 30 days later, she ghosted the payments. 60 days later, collection notices torched my credit score. 90 days later, Mom and Dad accused me of gambling away company funds. Dad, Gregory Calder, is a coastal property lawyer who quotes Marcus Aurelius when the Wi-Fi lags. Mom Alice curates charity galas where guests bid on spa vacations for the orphans. They swallowed Claire's version whole, of course. Zoe added paprika by hinting that my mood swings looked suspiciously like substance abuse. The family verdict: Noah is toxic. Cut him off before the shingles on the Calder brand start curling. Fine. I packed my dignity into one suitcase, moved to a shoebox apartment, and started rebuilding. I sold my motorcycle, skipped dinners, and taught coding boot camps on weekends until the loan balance finally stopped screaming. I told myself distance was freedom. It almost worked until last Tuesday. My cousin Lucas texted a glittering invite graphic. Greg and Alice is a 30th Harborview Pavilion, Saturday 7 p.m., champagne attire. Then, dude, why aren't you on the guest list? Also, they told Nan you drowned. Adrenaline tastes metallic. I spent that entire night scrolling every family feed, eulogies, candle emojis, even Zoe's tearful vlog about losing a brother to dark currents. Dark currents my ass. Rage sharpened into clarity. If they wanted a ghost, I'd give them one unannounced and in living color. Step 1. Compile evidence. Every bank transfer, every pleading text from Claire, every email where Dad consoled her for being manipulated by Noah's addictions. I printed them highlighted names in neon and tucked the stack into a matte black envelope. Step 2. Look the part. Saturday morning, I rented a midnight blue suit that made my reflection flinch. Hair-trimmed shoes, polished, heartbeat steady. I practiced one line in the mirror, evening mother. Miss me, but decided silence would sting more. Harborview Pavilion sits on a cliff overlooking Pacific waves that hammer the rocks like war drums. Inside, floor-to-ceiling windows framed a sunset straight off a postcard. Crystal chandelier string quartet foie gras canapes. The Calders never miss an Instagrammable detail. I slipped through the side entrance at 6:58 p.m., just as the lights dimmed for the anniversary toast. From the back of the ballroom, I watched Dad raise his glass. Silver-templed, perfect posture, he thanked everyone for supporting the family through unimaginable loss and dedicated the night to our son forever in our hearts. Cue delicate sniffles, cue Mom dabbing dry eyes. I felt the floor tilt, but I waited. 1 beat, 2. Then I buttoned my jacket and strolled down the center aisle. Gasps sparked like static. Someone dropped a flute of champagne. Mom's napkin froze mid-air white against red lipstick. Dad's jaw unhinged so wide, I could have tossed the envelope straight in. Instead, I placed it on the head table like a final course. No words, just a nod. Claire's face drained to porcelain. Zoe's phone was already filming the irony thick enough to chew. Security snapped awake, but nobody moved. It's hard to cuff a dead man when 200 witnesses are live streaming. I pivoted toward the exit heat roaring in my ears and let the quartet's awkward silence escort me out. I didn't sleep. I drifted. The Pacific hummed outside my window while my phone pulsed like a dying star vibrating across the desk every few seconds with fresh pings. Zoe's followers screaming, "Is this performance art?" Claire's investors firing off, "Explain ASAP." Dad's law partner demanding I cease defamatory conduct. I scrolled until 4 a.m. and found a shaky handheld clip of my entrance already climbing the trending charts. It carried the caption, "Family hosts memorial for son." Son shows up. 20 million views by dawn, and I hadn't said a single word on camera. The silence made people wild with theories, ghost twin deepfake, so I brewed coffee thick enough to stand a spoon in and drafted a message to the only person who might still talk to me face to face. Lucas answered on the second ring, voice low like he was hiding under blankets. "You kicked an anthill, cuz. They started calling relatives in Brisbane to blame your mental episode." He paused, then added, "I believe you, but believe and survive aren't twins. You need proof that sings louder than their money." I told him about the envelope. He exhaled relief and promised to drive over after class. He teaches high school chemistry, now a fact that still makes my aunt proud, and Dad mildly disappointed, noble, but unscalable. He once sniffed. While I waited, I opened the envelope myself for the first time since printing. Black ink on white paper felt colder than screen light. Each page was time-stamped, annotated, cross-referenced, undeniable. Yet I realized it was still missing the smoking spark Claire's original loan contract carried only my signature. Her name was hidden behind the shell corporation that arranged the funds. A court would take weeks to untangle that knot, and the Calder rumor mill needed hours. I needed more. At 10, a rap landed on my door. Not Lucas. A woman in a slate gray coat held up a badge, Evelyn Reyes, licensed private investigator. She said my parents asked her to verify my well-being. I laughed. She didn't. Her eyes were flint, but there was curiosity underneath. I let her in because I had nothing to hide, and because letting her peek around saved me the cost of a security deposit if she decided to return with a warrant. She scanned the room swiftly, laptop coffee mug stack of bills paid down to zero walls bare, except for a pinned postcard of Icelandic glaciers. No drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. She muttered more to herself than to me. Then she asked the question. Everybody online was chewing. "Why fake your death?" I told her I hadn't. She recorded my statement voice steady, then surprised me by switching off the recorder. Off the record, she said families rewrite history when it threatens profit. But you know that already. She handed me a card and advised I keep receipts of every interaction from now on. Screenshots decay. Certified copies don't. As she left, she nodded at the envelope like it was a ticking clock. Noon brought Lucas clutching 2 notebooks and a brown bag lunch that smelled like cafeteria nostalgia. He spread spreadsheets across my kitchen table and pointed to a column of transfers cascading from Claire's corporate accounts into a trust managed by a man named Julian Hawk, Claire's silent partner and former venture capitalist whose last startup dissolved amid whispers of insider trading. Lucas had scraped the data from public filings no journalist had bothered to open. The amounts matched the monthly shortfalls that had buried me. We finally had a paper spine to the beast. Next, we needed the heart confirmation that Julian knew the loan was in my name and that Claire had lied about repayment. Lucas suggested hacking Julian's email. I vetoed. Prison orange clashes with my complexion. Instead, I called Mila Park my upstairs neighbor. Mila is a tattoo artist by day, encryption hobbyist by night, and loyal to anyone who walks her rescue pit bull when she's overbooked. She arrived wearing ink-splattered overalls, winked at Lucas, and set up her tablet. Her plan exploit, a vulnerability in the appointment booking software Julian's consultancy used. Apparently, the devs left an API wide open. I watched her fingers dance and wondered why she wasted genius on packet sniffers when she could run a cybersecurity firm. She shrugged. Needles pay the rent code, pays revenge. In under an hour, she pulled a cache of auto-forwarded invoices and an email thread labeled NC Option My Initials. The thread showed Julian coaching Claire on how to shift liability under the middle child's profile because he lacked public visibility, followed by Claire replying with a champagne emoji. Mila encrypted the trove, then slapped a post-it on my fridge leverage, or expose your call. She and Lucas left to avoid being accessories if I chose fireworks. I sat alone, laptop glowing, the city surfacing afternoon traffic outside like distant applause. Entropy crept in. I could leak everything and watch the family burn, but scorched earth doesn't grow closure. Part of me wanted an apology whispered in the dark. Another part wanted justice shouted from rooftops, and a stubborn fragment simply wanted the debt refunded so I could disappear. While I debated, Zoe went live from her sunlit kitchen cheeks, streaked with designer mascara. "My brother is alive," she sobbed, "and he's sick." She claimed I suffered from paranoid fantasies, accused me of forging documents to blackmail Claire, and begged followers to donate to a mental health charity in my name. Donations poured in. Rage roared back. I typed a single tweet: I was never lost at sea. But if my family keeps lying, they'll wish I had been. 200,000 likes in 10 minutes. The comment storm drowned Zoe's livestream and split her fanbase like lightning. Some demanded answers. Others called me cruel. The divide felt useful. At dusk, Evelyn texted, "Your father has scheduled a press conference tomorrow noon. They'll present you as unstable unless you respond first." She added one more line. "Meet me at the shuttered Harborview Pilates site, 11 p.m. I found something you need to see." The studio was the birthplace of Claire's debt spiral, long since boarded up windows papered in foreclosure notices. If evidence existed, it hid there in the dark. I pocketed a flashlight, tucked Mila's thumb drive in my jacket, and headed out. Night fog curled over the pier, muffling the world. I reached the studio door. A padlock hung loose, already cut. Inside, the air smelled of dust and lavender cleaner. My light swept across abandoned reformer machines and a desk strewn with ledgers. Then the beam caught movement, a silhouette near the back office, tall shoulders squared, definitely not Evelyn. Before I could step back, the door slammed shut behind me, and the lock snapped into place. Whoever was inside wanted an audience. My pulse punched my ribs, but my voice stayed calm. "Julian, I presume?" The figure moved closer. Moonlight slicing across a sharp jaw and colder smile. "You made quite the entrance last night," he said, tone polished as a boardroom toast. He reached into his coat. I tightened my grip on the flashlight, ready to trade photons for bones if necessary. That's when another voice echoed from the office. Evelyn's ordering him to drop whatever he held. Light flooded the room as she flipped the breaker. Julian froze, caught between us. Evelyn's badge glinted just enough authority to stall violence, but not enough to erase it. I realized the next minutes would decide whether the Calders confessed or escalated to something far uglier. And I had exactly one weapon, truth, printed in black and white, hot in my pocket, waiting for its cue. Evelyn's pistol stayed low, but steady muzzle pointed at Julian's immaculate loafers. My flashlight wobbled a shaky halo around us. Julian's free hand rose, the other clutched a flash drive shaped like a silver bullet. "Proof of nothing you want," he said, voice lacquered cool. Evelyn motioned him toward the desk. I kicked the doorstop wedge under the entrance, just in case reinforcements arrived. The boarded windows rattled with ocean wind. Drywall dust drifted like ash. Julian slid the drive across the plywood desktop. "Claire asked me to purge the originals," he admitted. This is the last backup. You break it, we all walk away losers. He tried a charming smile. It curdled when Evelyn produced her body cam. The red light blinked alive. Repeat that, she ordered. Julian hesitated, then glared at me. Your sister framed you. Your parents endorsed it. They paid me to disappear the trail. The words landed dull yet explosive like damp fireworks. My throat tasted rust. Evelyn slipped the drive into an evidence pouch. We're going to copy this and hand it to the press before noon, she told him. Cooperate now, and you might dodge perjury. Julian laughed a brittle crack. You think headlines scare Greg Calder? He'll bury you in injunctions before breakfast. The confidence needled me, but Evelyn clicked her safety off, which refocused his priorities. He offered passwords, server locations, even a notarized contract linking Claire's shell firm to the loan. I used my phone to record everything. When he finished, Evelyn cuffed him with zip ties sheathed in her coat sleeve, then called a patrol unit. 5 minutes later, red-blue strobes painted the condensation on the front window. Cops led Julian out, bemused by lavender-scented crime scene. Evelyn's badge smoothed the exchange. She gave me a ride in her dented sedan, silent, until traffic lights bled orange over the windshield. Finally, she spoke. Your father called me off the case this afternoon, said you were unstable and dangerous. I kept digging anyway. I asked why. She shrugged. Truth is like gravity. Ignore it long enough, and everything breaks. At a 24-hour print shop, we uploaded Julian's drive duplicated files and bundled them with Mila's cash, plus Lucas's spreadsheets, labeled Calder Doc's Full Chain of Fraud. I felt a tremor of fear this packet could end reputations, maybe careers. Yet the alternative was surrender. Dawn tinted the sky bruise pink when we left. I texted Lucas meet Harbor Diner ASAP. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a gif of a detonator. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and fried nostalgia. Lucas arrived first, hair-frizzed eyes wild. Mila slid into the booth seconds later, pitbull leash looped on her wrist. We spread documents like tarot cards across sticky laminate. Evelyn briefed them on Julian's confession voice, low but crisp. Lucas whooped quietly. Mila tapped her tablet, already uploading encrypted bundles to 3 investigative journalists and 1 anonymous drop site. Redundancy is life, she said. Sunlight speared through blinds striping our evidence pile. The television above the counter switched to a live feed my parents' press conference starting early. Dad stood behind a mahogany podium outside Calder and Associates. He clasped Mom's hand, eyes solemn. He announced heartbreak over my episodes, offered to fund my rehabilitation, cited Zoe's bravery in bringing Noah back from delusion. Cameras flashed like angry fireflies. Reporters bought every word. My stomach turned to granite. Mila nudged a laptop toward me. We can stream our files now, she whispered. Evelyn shook her head. Kill their script first. Show up, force real questions. I pictured the courthouse steps, microphones, velvet ropes. The thought froze my lungs, but Lucas laid a hand on my shoulder. You walked into your own memorial. 1 more podium's nothing. He had a point. We split duties. Mila would blast the documents if anything happened to me. Evelyn would flank the press line. Lucas would record from 5 angles for upload. While the Cause plotted routes, I ducked into the restroom and stared at my reflection. Eyes red-rimmed beard stubble broadcasting exhaustion. But behind the fatigue burned something solid purpose, maybe. Or plain fury, refined into steel. I practiced my opening sentence aloud. My name is Noah Calder, and I am done being a ghost. 10 minutes later, I stood in cabaret of reporters, Harbor District Courthouse looming behind. Dad's speech wound down. The crowd shifted. I stepped forward, voice clear. Excuse me. Heads turned, gasps rippled. Dad's jaw locked. Mom whispered, horror fracturing her gala-perfect makeup. I handed a neatly bound dossier to the CBS mic holder. Verified bank logs, contractual emails, sworn testimony from Julian Hawk, I said. They prove my family fabricated my death and saddled me with their debt. I gestured toward my parents. Ask them why. Chaos blossomed. Cameramen pivoted. Questions fired like hail. Dad attempted a rebuttal, but Evelyn presented Julian's notarized statement to the nearest officer, who whisked it inside for immediate filing. Within minutes, deputies escorted my parents to a side chamber for clarification. The crowd erupted in either shock or schadenfreude. I couldn't tell the difference. Zoe appeared phone streaming mascara perfect this time. She shoved it toward me. "Tell the world you're sick," she hissed, eyes pleading behind venom. I met her stare. "I am healing," I replied. "Watch closely, you might learn how." She faltered. Viewers watched her mask slip, chat scroll filled with question marks. I walked away before regret could root. Journalists hurled final questions. How did I survive? What did I want revenge money? I answered plainly. Accountability, then peace. Mid-sentence, my phone buzzed. Mila Doc Drop is live. Trending already? Relief flooded hot and dizzy. The truth no longer needed my pulse to breathe. Police emerged cuff-free but grim. Dad avoided my eyes. Mom clutched pearls, literally. Reporters peppered them with the evidence pack. Their lawyer stammered ongoing review. As they retreated, Lucas caught my arm. "Time to vanish before headlines turn you into circus," he said. Evelyn agreed. She offered safe motel near county line. I nodded, exhaustion finally crashing. In the car, I texted Mila a green check emoji. She replied with a link, social media exploding hashtags, #GhostNoMore and #CalderCon spiraling viral. Sponsors were already suspending partnerships with Claire's studios. Closure wasn't instant, but momentum was undeniable. We reached the motel as dusk bled purple across asphalt. Lucas checked the parking lot, then fetched takeout burritos. Evelyn pulled a battered board game from her trunk. Something about detectives solving cold cases. We sat on rough bedspreads, lights dim playing, until laughter carved space between adrenaline spikes. At midnight, thunder rolled distant over the ocean. I stepped outside, motel neon buzzing. Rain began gentle, almost cleansing. My phone chimed again, unknown number. A voice message from Dad, only 6 words. "We need to talk. Please call." I saved it, but let the silence answer. Lightning stitched the horizon. For the first time in years, I felt the future could belong entirely to me. 12 hours after the evidence drop, the world felt tuned to my heartbeat, every social feed throbbing with takes on the Calder implosion. Claire's sponsors fled, Zoe's follower count shed digits, and Dad's firm announced an internal ethics review that fooled no one. Yet beneath the public avalanche, a quieter game began. Lawyers volleyed settlement offers across encrypted email threads, each one asking me to trade silence for money. I ignored them all until a black sedan idled outside the motel headlights, cutting the rain haze. Evelyn peered through the curtain, hand near her holster, but the driver only slid an envelope under the office door and rolled away. Inside lay a handwritten note in Dad's angular script. "Name your terms. Meet me where we scattered the ashes." The ashes, of course, never existed, but the reference led to the cliffside gazebo where my memorial service had staged its final tableau. Lucas argued it was a trap. Mila called it cinematic. I thought it was proof Dad finally understood symbolism was our shared language. At dawn, I drove alone, windshield wipers beating a desperate metronome. Fog crowded the coastal road, erasing horizons, leaving just the guardrail and the drop. The gazebo appeared like a ghost ship's massed sea churning beneath. Dad stood inside raincoat folded over one arm, gaze pinned to the surf. Years of courtroom posture kept him statuesque, but the slumped shoulders betrayed fatigue. He didn't flinch when I stepped onto the platform. You detonated everything he said, voice shredded, not angry, just raw. I told him the fuse was lit the day they forged my death. He nodded, conceding the point. Then he offered an apology, so stripped of rhetoric, it startled me. "I'm sorry we chose legacy over you." He produced a certified check, an amount large enough to erase my debt twice and fund a fresh start. "Take it and the spectacle, spare your mother prison." I scanned the mist for cameras. None. The offer was real, but wrong. "Justice isn't a payout," I replied. "Claire orchestrated fraud, Julian abetted, you covered. Face the consequences. Rebuild from there." Dad's jaw tightened. "Prison will destroy your sister." I countered that their scheme nearly destroyed me. We stood locked in silence, broken only by gulls crying overhead. Finally, he whispered, "What would make this right?" I didn't know yet, but the truth had to stand unbribed. I walked away, leaving the check flapping in the wind. Back at the motel, news alerts blared, Julian made bail and vanished. Police suspected private airstrip. Mila slammed her laptop shut, cursing. Without him on record in court, prosecutors might wobble. Worse, Claire posted a teary confession video claiming she'd been manipulated by Julian and pleading for leniency. The internet loves a redemption arc. Comments already softened toward her. We needed a counterstroke. Evelyn suggested we expose the Calder patriarch next, but Lucas had another angle: follow the money further upstream. He'd noticed transfers from Dad's firm to a nonprofit called Ocean Pathways that existed only on paper. Mila cracked the nonprofit's registry and found its address matched Zoe's shipping warehouse. The family had laundered funds through each sibling, an Ouroboros of deceit. That web, if public, would crush the victim narrative Claire was spinning. But we required undeniable access logs. Mila traced the nonprofit's server to a data farm outside the city and grinned field trip. I dreaded direct action, but time dwindled. We drove at sunset in Lucas's rickety van, its roof rack rattling like change in a jar. Evelyn coached us on legal lines we could toe: no forced entry, only open-source intel gathering. Inside the data farm's lobby, Mila posed as a freelance auditor. Her forged badge passed casual inspection. She claimed a malware outbreak tied to Ocean Pathways servers and requested on-site terminal use. Tech staff overworked and underpaid obliged. While she navigated directories, Evelyn chatted up the supervisor. Lucas lingered at the vending machines, and I pretended to troubleshoot a spreadsheet. Within 20 minutes, Mila extracted root logs showing Dad's firm scheduling automated transfers minutes after Julian's withdrawals, breadcrumbs synchronized too neatly to dismiss. She also found a hidden directory named Safe Harbor containing scanned passports, including Julian's, with recent travel visas. Proof of the getaway plan. She encrypted everything, dumped it onto 3 micro SD cards, slipped one into my wallet. We left before curiosity caught up. In the parking lot, taillights flared. A black SUV lurked. Tires screeched, engine roared toward us. Evelyn shoved Mila and Lucas behind a concrete pillar and drew her weapon. I stood frozen, adrenaline drowning thought. The SUV swerved last second, a warning, not a hit, and sped off, plates obscured. We regrouped inside the van, hearts hammering. "They're escalating," Evelyn said, white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Back at the motel, we discovered the door ajar lock splintered. The room was ransacked, but our drives remained in a bolted case Mila had chained to the radiator. Whoever searched knew enough to scare us, but not enough to crack Mila's paranoia. Rain started again, relentless. I sifted through the mess and found a single Polaroid on the pillow, Claire sitting in a police interview room, eyes red, holding today's newspaper. A handwritten caption read, "She folds tomorrow." "Do you?" I felt heat crawl up my spine. Dad was done negotiating. He was cornering me with Claire's potential incarceration. Lucas called it bluff, but Evelyn warned a desperate parent might sacrifice one child to save the rest. I played the voicemail Dad had left. "We need to talk. Please call." I recognized fatigue, but also a threat disguised as plea. I dialed him on speaker. He answered instantly. "Is Claire safe?" I asked. He sighed. "Only if you halt this crusade. Public opinion can still shift." I told him we possessed the Ocean Pathways files. Silence expanded until he spoke again, softer. "Then we're both holding grenades." "Noah?" "Difference is," I said, "mine has the pin." I hung up. We decided to force the climax on neutral ground. Mila proposed a live debate streamed from Harborview Pavilion's rooftop, the same place their empire loved for panoramas. Dad craved optics. Give him a stage, and he'd come. We sent the challenge through every channel tomorrow at noon, unedited stream. Both sides present evidence. Let public decide. #Calder Showdown began trending before sunrise. I barely slept, rehearsing every rebuttal, visualizing the city skyline behind me, while truth aired raw. Noon came cloaked in pewter clouds, the Pacific heaving below Harborview Pavilion like a restless jury. Lucas arrived first, rigging 3 gimbaled phones to a portable router so our feed could hop networks if anyone tried to jam it. Mila followed, laptop hugged to her chest. Encryption scripts already spinning. Evelyn paced the perimeter radio on her hip, eyes slicing through every shadow cast by the drone cameras orbiting overhead. I stood at center stage, literally a square of reinforced glass framed by steel rails, watching seawater explode against the cliffs far beneath. My heart thrummed a counterpoint to the roar. 1 minute before 0 hour, a black helicopter cut across the horizon and settled on the south helipad. Dad disembarked, flanked by 2 attorneys in windbreakers that flapped like ravens' wings. Mom trailed Pearls, gone hair-pinned tight, face pale yet determined. Claire wasn't with them. The subpoena must have landed. Zoe emerged, last phone raised, already live followers treated to her unfiltered arrival. The Calders approached in professional formation. Dad stopped 6 feet from me, microphone arrays between us, and waited for the countdown Mila triggered in neon digits on the live overlay. 5, 4, 3. A hush rippled through the rooftop, watchers, journalists, curious employees, a few local activists smelling legacy gossip. At 0, I spoke first. I'm Noah Calder, the son declared dead. Today, I ask my family why truth was expendable. My voice carried clean despite the wind. Mila's audio filters earned their keep. Dad stepped forward, tone measured, all courtroom velvet. We are here in good faith to address misunderstandings and safeguard family privacy. I countered by reading verbatim Julian's email coaching Claire to dump the loan on me. The text scrolled on screen. Chat eruptions popped like popcorn. Dad's lawyer tried an objection, but this wasn't a court. Public opinion has its own rules. Mom clasped her purse strap tight enough to whiten knuckles. Zoe attempted a sympathy ploy. Noah struggled with isolation. We feared for his life. I pivoted to Lucas's flowchart of money sluicing through ocean pathways to Zoe's warehouse. The diagram pulsed crimson on every viewer's device. She stumbled midstream, comments turning hostile. Claire's feed suddenly lit up on the projection wall behind us, a pre-recorded confession playing on loop. She cried about Julian's manipulation, blamed stress, vowed to repay victims. But Mila had anticipated the drop and inserted a side-by-side of Claire's chat with Julian, where she gloated over using Middlebrow as shield. The split screen looked damning. Our audience gasped in unison. Wind picked up, whipping loose sheets from the lawyer's folder across the rooftop like startled gulls. Evelyn retrieved them calmly, never breaking her watch. Then Dad changed tactics. He produced the certified check. I'd rejected, thrust it toward the camera. My son refuses restitution. Does that sound like reason or revenge? The crowd murmured. Optics stung. I inhaled salt-cold air and replied, restitution without accountability is hush money. I pulled the micro SD card Mila had given me, held it aloft. Every transfer, every forged signature, every shell company resides here, and on mirrored servers worldwide. Erase 100 remain. I want transparency, not payment. The sky darkened. Thunder rolled inland. Suddenly, our stream stuttered, viewers, dropping, chat freezing. Mila's eyes widened. DDoS. She slammed new firewall rules, rerouted to satellite. Feed flickered, then steadied. Chat exploded with applause emojis. The attack backfired, proving sabotage. Dad's attorneys whispered, brows furrowed. He lifted his hands, palms out, as though calming a restive jury. Enough spectacle. Noah, come home. We'll issue a statement together, settle debts privately, spare your sister prison. I pictured Claire toasting with champagne emoji while my credit disintegrated, the hollow echo of my staged eulogy, the motel door splintered by threats. I shook my head. Lightning stitched the cloud bank. Rain began needling sideways. Cameras had weather hoods, but our time shrank. Evelyn stepped forward, voice carrying authority. Mr. Calder, investigators now possess evidence linking your firm to wire fraud and money laundering. Cooperate and charges may lessen. Resist and we proceed. Sirens wailed below. Police cars queued at the pavilion entrance. Dad's mask slipped just a tremor, but I saw fear. Zoe's live stream dipped as she turned the lens away, perhaps smelling the collapse of her brand. Mom reached for Dad's sleeve, whispering something lost to wind. He stiffened, then faced me. What do you want? Noah? The question felt genuine, stripped of strategy. I answered softly, but broadcast clear. A public admission of wrongdoing, full restitution to every harmed creditor, and a binding pledge to dissolve the fake nonprofits. No spin, no sealed agreements. Rain pounded, now pooling on the glass beneath us. Dad glanced at the encroaching officers, then at the camera, the world's eyes. He opened his mouth to respond when a shrill drone pierced the air, an unauthorized quadcopter diving toward the rooftop. Security shouted, spectators ducked. The craft slammed the stage edge, detonating a burst of colored smoke that blinded half the deck. Chaos erupted, screams, feet scrambling for exits. Visibility dropped to gauzy red haze. Through coughing, I saw a shadowy figure sprint toward Dad, grab the evidence case from his console, and dash for the stairwell. Reflex overrode shock. I chased. Lucas shouted behind me. Evelyn cut across intercept path. Stairwell lights flickered as the thief bounded down. On level 2 landing, I recognized the angular shoulders Julian out on bail, desperate to reclaim leverage. He swung the case like a mace. It grazed my temple, stars burst, but adrenaline carried me. We grappled. Case skidded, cracking open drives, scattering. Julian cursed, elbowed my ribs, nearly broke free until Evelyn tackled him, cuffs snapping with satisfying click. Police stormed in seconds later, guns drawn. Julian surrendered, breath ragged. I gathered the drives, heart hammering a war drum. Back on the rooftop, smoke thinned. Dad stood alone under the storm attorneys, gone, crowd evacuated. Camera still streamed, soaked, but resilient. I approached, drenched blood mixing with rain from a cut on my brow. Dad looked smaller somehow, shoulders rounded. Sirens wind-whipped around us. He faced the lens. Voice unsteady, yet clear, he began. We have failed our son and the public. The documents are real. The fraud is real. We accept responsibility. Each syllable seemed to cost him years, but paid a debt decades old. Lightning flashed as if punctuating the confession. Police escorted him and Mom toward the stairwell, rights recited. Zoe sobbed into her phone feed, finally dropping. I stood alone on the slick glass water, shimmering with red-blue reflections. Mila's voice crackled through my earpiece feeds, stable. Viewers at 14 million. They heard everything. Thunder answered, then silence except the sea below. The storm cleared overnight, but the smell of ozone lingered in my lungs like a warning I'd never forget. By dawn, the pavilion stood empty, police tape snapping in the sea breeze, drone scraps piled beside shattered glass. Reporters camped below until officers shooed them away. The feed's final frame, Dad admitting guilt under a lightning-cut sky, looped across every major network before breakfast. By noon, indictments rolled out against Claire Julian and 2 partners at Dad's firm. Mom and Zoe negotiated cooperation deals. Their names landed in footnotes instead of headlines. Justice rarely arrives perfect, but it arrived. I spent the next week sleeping in 90-minute snatches, body convinced danger still stalked the door. Evelyn filed her last report, then surprised me with 2 plane tickets to Iceland. Cold air resets trauma, she claimed. I promised to think about it. Lucas returned to his classroom and found a stack of handmade thank you cards his students had live tweeted the showdown. Mila went viral for a thread on digital self-defense. 2 cybersecurity firms tried to hire her before noon. She declined, opened her own consultancy, named it Ghostproof. Meanwhile, the court appointed a forensic accountant to unravel ocean pathways. Each time another shell company surfaced, a bell seemed to ring inside my head, proof I hadn't imagined their betrayal. Restitution funds flowed into an escrow account with my name on it, but I didn't touch a cent. Money solves math, not memories. One gray Tuesday, Claire requested a visitor. I almost deleted the email, but curiosity itched. County jail smelled of bleach and resignation. She entered in orange hair pulled back, eyes swollen but sharp. No cameras, no attorneys, just us, a scratched plexiglass pane between. She started with practiced remorse, then faltered, realizing spin held no value here. Finally, she said, "You were the sibling most likely to forgive, that's why I chose you. I'm sorry for treating kindness like weakness." The honesty felt scalpel clean. I told her forgiveness was a road, not a door. We parted without promises. 3 months passed. Courtrooms cooled, headlines drifted to newer scandals. and I discovered quiet has a sound like distance humming. I rented a small studio overlooking a shipyard where welding sparks lit the dusk. At night, I coded an open-source app that flags predatory loan clauses. Lucas's idea, Mila's encryption, Evelyn's threat modeling. We named it Lantern. The beta drew nonprofits faster than we could onboard. Impact tasted better than vindication. Dad's sentencing arrived on a crisp autumn morning. He received 4 years federal, likely 2, with good behavior. In the courtroom, he looked less like a titan, more like a man who'd run too far in tight shoes. When the judge read the term, he glanced back, searching faces. I gave a small nod, not triumph acknowledgement. He nodded once, in return, a fragile truce. Zoe pivoted her channel to mental health advocacy, donating ad revenue to scholarship funds for fraud victims. Cynics called it rebranding. I call it a start. We haven't spoken yet. Some bridges need seasons before they carry weight again. Mom volunteers at a legal aid clinic. Rumor says she brews coffee for interns and keeps her pearls boxed away. As winter crept in, I unpacked Evelyn's plane tickets, ran my thumb over the dates, felt restlessness spark. I called her. She answered from a cold case symposium voice, smiling. We met at the pier that night, frost silvering the rails. She'd replaced her battered sedan with a motorcycle and handed me a helmet. Small detour before Iceland, she said. We rode along the cliffs until sunrise painted the ocean copper. Wind tore laughter out of us, the kind that sounds like survival finally exhaling. A week later, I stood on a black sand beach outside Reykjavik, icy foam licking my boots. Northern lights rippling like repaired auroras. I recorded a voice memo to myself. You are not the story they wrote. You are the editor now. Then I tossed the SD card I'd carried since the rooftop final backup of every incriminating file into the frigid surf. Some ghosts deserve burial at sea. Others stay to guide ships home. Back in the States, Lantern hit 1 million downloads. Lucas's students mapped our user clusters for a science fair and won regionals. Mila hired 2 interns, both women who'd left exploitative tech jobs. Claire sent her first repayment from prison wages, $10, with a handwritten note for the loan I stole. More to come. I pinned it above my desk as proof people can choose to mend. On the anniversary of my death, Harborview Pavilion hosted a charity gala for coastal mental health programs. I received an invite addressed correctly this time. I declined, but mailed a quiet donation equal to the checks once demanded of me. Let the place write new memories. Some nights, the ocean still thunders like applause turned menacing, and I jolt awake expecting smoke bombs or drone wings. But I'm learning to sit with echoes until they fade. Healing, I've realized, isn't linear. It's tidal forward, back forward again, carving new shorelines. One dawn not long ago, I walked the pier with Evelyn. She asked what comes next. I told her I might buy a derelict warehouse, convert it into a free co-working hub for whistleblowers and coders who believe transparency isn't a luxury. She laughed, said she'd handle security audits. We watched the sun breach the horizon light, catching on calm water that once looked like graveyard marble. I'm still Noah Calder, inconvenient middle child hoodie, loyalist software tinkerer. But the world no longer files me under Lost at Sea. I'm charting maps in open-air compass, set to true north, horizon clean. The family name will heal or crumble by its own choices. I'm busy living. If you ever doubt the power of a single truth, remember this one flashlight beam in a boarded-up studio illuminated a lie big enough to drown an empire. Imagine what happens when we all carry lanterns.